All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the show. Slowly getting our way to 100 episodes. What are we, 3 away now? Very close. So, stay tuned. Almost there. But for episode 97 of our series here, the horror legend, I guess. Is that what you'd call yourself?
I'm just horror gamer or horror guy.
Fair enough. Very humble, That's all right. Well, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello. So, um, go ahead and start things off here with the first question I usually ask is, you know, what you do in the scene, kind of introduce yourself here.
I guess mainly just horror games. I like doing a lot of horror speedrunning stuff and I guess weird games lately. But that's my main general niche. And then for which game, pretty much like all of them.
All
Like
of them.
like I do a lot.
Fair enough. Yeah, I know there are a lot of weird horror games, so that's got to make for some interesting speedruns sometimes.
A little bit.
So, fun niche to fall into. Very Even though it's all like horror based, it's all very unique it seems like, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah, there's a lot of different games out there.
Maybe too many, especially in the horror genre nowadays. But keeps you busy, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll uh start with the first big question here is how did you get started with speedrunning? How'd you find out about it?
I used to work an IT job, and at the time, I think Twitch was just starting to pick up more. I think like Twitch plays Pokemon was like the thing. After that ended, my coworkers at the time would put on like I think like Bloodborne speedruns. I had no idea what the game was, and I had no idea what the speedrunning was, but it looked fun to watch. And then after a while, a coworker explained it to me more, and then I was like, hey, that sounds pretty fun. So years later, just having more free time, I thought, hey, why don't I try doing that myself since I like watching it? And I just kind of picked a few games that were cool. I ended up sticking with one called Clock Tower, and then just thought it'd be kind of fun to keep doing.
Mm-hmm. And that's like one of the first horror games, right? That was the Super Nintendo release, Japan exclusive.
Yeah, came out in 1995.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. But
Yeah,
kind of really was a good jumpstart into the genre, though. It did like really well for what it set out to do with the limited technology, I guess.
yeah, it's a pretty solid game.
Yeah. So, what got you to choose that to start off?
Just a game I liked. Like it really could have been like anything. I actually picked some weird games to start off because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I mostly just picked games that I remember liking either when I was a kid or just in general. Like I think some of the earliest ones I wanted to try doing were like Super Mario Sunshine, Clock Tower, Psychonauts, Bioshock, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories. Actually, but most of them didn't stick for one reason or another. But Clock Tower did.
Yeah, certainly a varied list of options there.
Again, I just kind of picked games I thought were interesting when I was younger or I enjoyed playing at one point.
I think all of them make good speedruns, though. They're all very different speedruns as well. So,
Yeah, the weird part is I didn't know Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories is actually like a popular speed game at one point. Like I just played the game as a kid, and I remember always having like I thought it was fun. It's like, hey, I know that game.
yeah, it really is. I don't know anything about it personally, but I do know it's one of the like really popular games to run up there. I
It's a fun one.
That's good. Yeah. No, nothing about it, but yeah, Clock Tower's the one that's stuck, and yeah, just did you start just streaming it on Twitch then right away?
Yeah, started streaming it. Couldn't stream a whole lot because I didn't have a lot of space, but I probably spent like maybe once a month max. But I ended up doing really well in Clock Tower. I just ended up sticking. I think I broke like every world record in that game at the time at one point.
All right,
Nah.
pretty good.
Just a lot of new discoveries happened because I started running the game, and then at a later point, it just sort of evolved, I guess.
hmm As speed games tend to do. So, do you know
Yeah.
what year you kind of started?
Yeah, 2017.
Hey, that's when I started. How about that? Good year, I guess.
No, and then I wouldn't really do a lot more till 2018 though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely takes a minute to get familiar with everything. It took me a while.
Just having more time, having more like space.
True. Yeah. When I started, I was still in college, so it took up most of my time. But yeah, good year to start, I say.
Yeah.
I do actually remember that year in college. I started getting into watching speedrunning marathons a lot more, and I had a horrible sleep schedule, so I was up till like 5 a.m. or something. And I remember seeing like this full Clock Tower SNES all ending speedrun. So I'm gonna assume that was you, because who else was
Probably, yeah.
doing it? It's just some
It was
random
around like
memory I have.
2018 or so, yeah. Or
Yeah.
maybe in, yeah, 2018.
Yep, just some random memory I have of it. But that was the first time I saw the game, and I was like, huh, that's kind of cool. I got more interested in like the history behind it, given again like one of the first big horror games. So, and it, Japan exclusive, all that stuff. Pretty fascinating. And then, yeah, that run like takes a while because there's actually quite a few endings in that game.
Yeah, all endings like I think like an hour 20-ish or something like that. I think the record's been lowered a bit, but like about like an hour 20.
Hmm.
Hour
And
11 if you're like world record, but it's kind of
so,
volatile, so hour 20 is usually safer.
got it. And so what category did you start off? Just like the fastest ending?
Nah, the main category at the time was ending S. So I was like, I want to do that one because that's the one that had like I think the most runners or like was first on the board.
Hmm. So,
Yeah,
what makes that ending like the
it's just
most
like the
popular?
game's best win condition. It's like, oh, do everything right. It's like, okay,
Fair enough.
it's the main ending.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar too much with how their endings are achieved, but so I don't know which ones are better or not. So makes sense though.
Yeah,
So
it's simple.
yeah, I mean they couldn't do too much with limited hardware. It's just pretty cool with what they did. So what I guess makes that game a good speed run?
It's not.
Oh, okay, well that's a good start.
I like it, but no, I mean it's kind of a weird point and click game. Not everyone's cup of tea. I've always enjoyed it, but yeah, admittedly, no, it has a lot of RNG.
Mm,
Control schemes are limited. You know, it being point and click and all that kind of gets a little bit weird. Although the SNES had controls that are actual controls.
mhm.
Um, I liked it though. It actually had a lot more tricks than regular point and click games. I always like personally, I'd say it's good, but like I think a lot of people are used to watching something that's a lot more active.
Mhm. I mean, all
But
got to start somewhere. And again,
I mean, it has a lot of neat tricks. It just I do know that you know, depending on who you ask, some people get bored pretty quickly. But I think there's a lot of nuance to it.
well, if it makes you feel better, when I saw it 6 years ago, I didn't get bored of it. So
Yeah, I
I
guess
might
a
have
lot
been
of people
sleep
have found
deprived as hell, but maybe I was fine. It didn't affect anything.
yeah, a lot of people have found their found intrigue in it, I guess. But that's kind of the whole horror genre as a whole. So
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely, especially that game has kind of a cult following. So, and I know they did spin a franchise out of it. I don't know how good the rest of the games are, but
they're all right.
they're all right. So, yep, first game. So, how long did you stick with that primarily?
I still run it actively every now and again.
Hmm.
Yeah, not all the time, but every now and again I'll break it out because I still like doing it. Just not fun to grind the RNG. It's like a 1 in 80 chance to like get a run.
Oh, 1 in 80?
Hmm.
Oh, wait,
Yeah.
why? What's the RNG?
You need a certain key that spawns half the time. You need a certain room that's a 1 in 5 chance of getting. Then that room, you need a book that spawns half the time, and then
Oh,
after that, you need to get another room that's a 1 in 4 chance.
mm.
If you
You're
don't get that
quickly talking
exact
me out
order,
of
you can't
this.
get record.
Yeah. I
And
guess it's a good
that's
marathon run, but maybe not a good speed run grind.
yeah, grinding for records usually just all right. 30 seconds reset. 30 seconds. All right, time to reset.
Got it. All right. So I got the good like introduction to it.
Yeah.
I see. So what kind of tricks are in that game since it's so limited?
You kind of mainly use text boxes to kind of break things. Like
Hmm.
you can prevent characters from dying when they're actually supposed to die because you can just click on certain areas of the game that the game's not expecting you to. So
Hmm.
you can kind of run through death areas. You can pass puzzles you're not supposed to by abusing text boxes, and it's pretty simple, but you can do quite a lot to actually not do what you're supposed to do.
And that's what speedrunning's all about.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's interesting. Again, I've always said like every game has something about it. So sounds like it's got something about it. A lot of
Yeah.
RNG maybe, but I don't know.
It's a
Y-
fun
It's
time.
it's unique. And again, I think it's a good marathon run if nothing else. So I guess what stemmed off from there.
Really just wanted to learn more games, so just kept learning more games as time went on. Um, that's mainly it. There's quite a lot, so I can't really just list all of them.
Yeah, there again. A
But
lot of
nah,
horror
just kind of kept
games.
learning things
Well, do you have like highlights that stick out?
of like all the games, or like what do you mean?
Just like a game, a speed game that was like, worth diving into a little more, I guess.
Um, I guess it depends like per era of things, but
I mean, we could start again in kind of a timeline. Like, what was the next big game that kind of
well,
stuck?
the first two I really dove into afterward because I learned a few other games, but I guess the first big two that I kind of wanted to do more of after Clock Tower were Little Nightmares and Dead Rising.
Okay. Little Nightmares is that an indie game? I'm not
Yeah,
familiar
well,
too
kind
much with
of.
that.
It's like Bandai Namco, I
Oh,
think.
okay. Huh.
And then it was like a horror platformer thing.
Yeah, that was it. Platforming. Again, there's so many, and I'm not too familiar with the genre myself, so
It was a fun
doing my
time.
best.
I haven't done that game in a while, but I used to do it a lot more back in the day.
Got it. I know Dead Rising is kind of the more big one.
Yeah, Dead Rising's always been kind of weird. I feel like it kind of comes in waves,
Mm-hmm.
but it's only more recently I've been doing a lot more of it. But yeah, when I started, I did Dead Rising a good amount. Just kind of ran the main category they have there, and honestly, I don't think I really did that much with it outside of just kind of grind it. In all honesty,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I mean, it's what speedrunning's all about at the end of the day. You gotta grind
yeah,
something.
suppose that's true.
Mm-hmm. So, is the main category just like a simple any percent?
Yeah, do you mod the game so you can actually not have to wait for 6 hours, and then you
Oh,
can yeah, normally if you don't mod it, you just have to wait the whole time. But this was like, hey, how about the story missions? So we just did that.
yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
I get modding the game to make better speedruns. I mean, you can do
Yeah,
whatever
like
you want
you
with
straight up,
leaderboards, right? So,
you're only modding out wait time. Like it's literally just, all right, are you going to wait or are you just going to play the game?
mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are like, oh my god, they're modding, but you can just, all right, go ahead and wait 6 hours if you want. That's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
I
I'll
mean,
I'll mod the game.
at the end of the day, the rules are made by moderators and community members, so
Pretty much.
they know what they're doing. Don't worry, it's fine. Yep. So, how long does that run usually take?
Yeah, it's like a solid like 40 minutes real time.
Mm-hmm. How long would it be with waiting?
Well, the waiting's like six and a half hours. You just wait.
Oh, like literally.
Yeah, like it's the game's on a rail normally, so if you don't mod it, you just wait.
Oh, just straight up. Okay, interesting.
Yep, I
So,
think you get like a little bit less, but it's like 6 real hours.
hmm, what are you waiting for?
The game to happen. Like the game takes place over 3 in-game days, so you have to wait
Oh,
for those days to pass.
okay.
And each day is like 2 hours.
Huh. Is there like a story reason that I'm
Yeah,
not familiar with the game, so I'm
you're
trying to.
there. You have 72 hours to do your mission, get your story,
Hmm.
and
So
then
does it
the
always
game moves
end
you on a
after that
timeline.
time?
Yep.
So even if you don't complete all the
If you're not at
missions,
the final point at the end of the 72 hours in game, then you're just done.
the game says "fuck you."
Something like that. You get a whatever
Okay.
ending you've met at that point.
Okay. So there are like multiple endings depend on the progress you made in that time
Yeah,
frame.
but people only really do like the main one, which is like, hey, here's the good ending, because otherwise it'd be kind of boring.
I see. Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. I totally get modding that out.
Yep.
Really cuts down on all the time. So does the like did they make the game where like certain missions can only be done at certain time increments
Yep.
or so how does the mod get around
It just
that?
skips forward to that
Okay, so it processes time in its
faster. Yeah.
way.
Yep. I'll just fast forward to wherever you're supposed to be at that point, time wise.
Okay. Hmm. I haven't heard a game that really does that. I've heard like, cutscene skips or modding out cutscenes, but this is
It's pretty simple.
sounds simple, but I don't know. I'm sure the mod's a little more complicated than that, unless it just like triggers the next cutscene or whatever, and that happens to change time. I don't know.
No, just all tied to the timer.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I find it impressive.
Yeah, it's a
And
fun time.
so that obviously makes the speed run playable. Sounds like otherwise it wouldn't
Yeah.
much be. So I don't know what's cool about that run other than
It's a lot
skipping
of skateboarding.
time. Skateboarding.
Yeah, you just fun movement. You skateboard all over the place.
So that's the
Quick boss.
fastest method of travel.
Yep. And then just quick boss rush stuff. It's probably one of the more favorites of horror people, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun.
Yeah, I mean that's what matters.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it doesn't sound like horror games usually have all too much in terms of speed running. Um,
Yeah, it really just depends on the game. Some
yeah,
do, some don't.
because I know a lot of them usually try to be there for the story or something like that, or like some sort of survival where you're tied to a timer.
Yeah,
So
it just really depends on the game.
yeah, I'm just speaking as like an overall what you usually see, like the big ones that usually pop off. So I just find it interesting trying to like get around that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I know Dead Rising's kind of a big franchise. So plenty of games. What do they have? 4 now? Something like
Uh,
that.
some of that, yeah.
Hmm. Have you done all of
Four
them
main
or
ones and
just stuck
remake.
to
No,
one?
yeah, I learned all of them.
Okay. Fair fair enough.
Yeah,
Are
just
are, the,
figured it'd be the thing.
are they all pretty different or
First two are mainly skateboarding and boss rush. Three and four are more like cars and boss rush. It's more or less the same, but like
okay.
just change the mode of transportation.
Interesting.
Yeah, like three plays a lot closer to like GTA or something, as weird as that sounds.
Oh, now we're speaking my language, I guess.
Yeah.
Given my username. But
Yeah.
so the game focuses around like are the main missions tied to like getting to a boss and
Yeah, usually you just go somewhere and then you advance the story. Like you're trying to get the you're like a journalist, you're trying to get your story for that. So it's like, hey, you're getting the information you need. And then usually you have to kind of deal with some kind of boss encounter or something like that.
So it's just getting there quickly and then defeating it quickly and then on to the next one.
Yep.
Interesting. Usually when I see people play that game, that's not at all what it looks
Well, that's
like.
because of the timer.
Yeah, I mean fair.
Yeah, normally you just wait
So like
or save survivors, but
okay, so casually there's more to do, I guess.
yeah, there's a lot more to do casually.
But speedrunners don't care about that. Are there other categories that kind of make you
Yeah,
have
there's
to
like all the optional bosses, there's all the optional survivors you can save. And then those have their fans, but like the main one's just main story, which I think most games do things like that. It's like, hey, here's the main
Mhm.
thing. It's like, okay,
like the standard 80%?
yeah,
Yeah, there's always the standard 80%, but I always see like, a 100% or all of this, all of that. So wasn't sure how the game dealt with that. Do all of the runs use the mod?
yeah, just different versions of the mod that will move the timer to different spots.
Okay. I don't know. That's
Yep, like you
really
still have to
interesting.
go to the exact spot, but like
Yeah.
once you complete the thing, it's like, okay, on to the next one.
So it's like in a game where it'll zoom out and time just They change it to where you need it to be for whatever action.
Something like that. It's pretty instantaneous.
Okay.
Like you do the thing, you're done, just go to the next one.
Yeah. I was just giving an example, I guess. But I don't know. Interesting. Again, I haven't heard of other games that really do that, so fun. Different. So I guess uh what what's next in the timeline?
Um, I don't know at that point. Kind of just kept learning more games for a while. I guess the next big one would probably just be what my first GDQ run. I guess maybe.
Hmm. What year was that?
It depends. If you count GDQX as an event,
I will count it, yes.
then 2018.
Okay. I think that was their first GDQX, wasn't it?
Yeah, one of
Hmm.
the first ones they had. They announced it. I thought it'd be fun to bring back Silent Hill 2,
Mm.
classic horror game, and they took it. And then I ended up kind of submitting it on a whim because wasn't sure of it, but I thought it'd be kind of fun. Felt good about just running. It's like, hey, I feel okay about this game. How about we give it a go? And then it got accepted, and I was surprised. Like, hey, that's weird. Okay, what do I do now? Then I went, and it was a fun run.
Mm-hmm. So
That
that
was
was
my
your
first
first. Was that your
GDQ.
first on stage
Yep.
performance?
Well,
Yep.
yeah, first on stage, first anything like that, really.
Mm-hmm. Like I
I
know
did
there's
like
plenty
some
of online
online
events,
marathons at
but
the time, but
yeah.
nothing like that.
So how was that experience for the first time?
Honestly, usually nerve wracking.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that's kind of weird. Like between streaming's easy. You can do a lot. You can just talk, just go, 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 go. I'm on a camera. I can't see the people behind the camera. I can wave, I can talk, but it's not the same thing. I'm looking at three computer screens. I hear voices, but I'm not physically kind of seeing the people. There's a difference when you see people,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
you get
it
an idea of who's
yeah,
actually paying
it's more
attention. You're like,
present
oh,
in the moments. So it's different.
oh yeah, no, I totally get it. My first time on a stage was freaky.
Yeah.
You just don't really realize it. And then the worst part, especially with like GDQ numbers at like a main event, you look behind you and there's like a giant crowd of people, and that's only like maybe a
Nah, horror
couple
block
few
usually.
hundred.
Sometimes there's some, but like horror blocks usually on in the middle of the night, dead of night. It's like, hey,
Yeah,
there's the usual crowd of people. That's a
yeah,
lot of runs.
fair enough. I'm giving more of the example of you get kind of an idea of a number of people, and then you realize like the people watching is like thousands of times greater, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh, that's how many people that is. And then it gets a little
definitely true.
worse. I guess
But
GDQX is a better place to start since generally the room's a little less crowded and there's not as many people watching, so maybe that
yeah,
helps a little bit.
funny. I think GDQX was like more crowded than like a lot of the runs I've done.
Really? Well, I
Yeah,
guess was
I
it
was
at
on
a
in a
better
good
time
time
slot?
slot,
Yeah,
interesting
that's
game, and
why.
one of the first times they're really doing it. So I think it's just more interest in that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yep, that was the first GDQX. Was that still at San Diego at that
Yep.
conference center? Okay.
Well, actually, no. I think it was like no, San Jose. I think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I haven't gone to a TwitchCon until this year, so
No,
I
it
just know
was
they
an old
usually
one.
they locate to San Diego when they can, so I wasn't sure where
Yeah.
they started. But yeah, so was it Silent Hill 2, right?
Yep.
All right. So what's that game all about in the speed run?
You run through a quiet town. It's
And
just a
people
lot of
love it.
running through hallways. People do love it. It's the horror game thing. A lot of people grew up with the
Yeah.
games. It has a fun style. Um, it's kind of fun to see. Again, a lot of horror games I think tend to be boss rushes in a way.
Hmm.
So it's kind of fun to see what strategies get implemented for that. A big thing is ammo routing. Well, like what you use, because you don't really have the same combat as a lot of other games. You're much more limited.
Hmm.
So it's what are they bringing in? What are they taking the time to grab? Stuff like that.
Got it. Yeah, I didn't think about how much routing usually needs to go into that because yeah, the whole point of like a horror game is you're limited on your supplies. They want to make it
Mm,
like you're always on edge. You don't know if you have all the materials you need, so
yeah,
that's got to be fun because I know a big fun thing about speedrunning is being able to like route your way through the run and then execute that route. So, did you find enjoyment in that process?
Uh, well, most of the games I learned already routed out to a nice degree, so it's kind of just here's
Okay,
the
so
path. Cool.
you're not one of the routers. You just like
I've
executing.
routed some games, but like usually if I learn a game, there's already like some community.
Mhm. Okay.
Like in order to route a game entirely, usually it's like what's the
New.
word? Yeah, like either newer or like really obscure. No one's doing it.
Hey, I mean, both are aplenty in horror,
Yeah.
from what I've seen.
I
So,
mean, it depends. Also, I think what some of the more popular speedruns I think are actually horror, depending on the game.
hmm no, yeah, they do really well, from what I've seen. I know Outlast is a really popular run,
Yeah,
for
like
example.
top on the site, like I think it's like what I think pretty sure RE7's still up there, like all time. RE like a lot of Resident Evil stuff, Outlast.
hmm
So no, there's usually existing communities for a lot of games.
hmm But I've just seen like the rise of the really they're horror games, but I think
I
the
mean, you can say
horrifying
that with
part
any
is
genre.
the
You can
fact
say
they
that
were
with any
made.
genre.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of platformers that are the same. You have a bunch of RPGs. I want to be Undertale. Like all genres, you can say that.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I'm actually kind of trying to argue that horror has lot more than just the standard. Like
Hmm.
they actually have quite a varied amount. Like, you know, collect towers, your point and click. You have your survival horrors. You have your cheap jump scare horrors.
Hmm.
Your abomination video games that were made in today and are just funny. Nice varied amount.
I suppose.
So there's a lot to pick and choose from, and I'm sure you've pick and chose plenty over the course of time so far.
Yeah.
I saw your speedrun.com profile kind of goes on for a while. So,
Yeah, I actually I think I have like a bunch of runs I didn't ever submitted to because I just
oh
stopped
no,
caring as much about Speedrunner.com, I guess. Um,
fair.
so there's actually a good few that are probably not on there that I do know.
hmm All right. So, going back to like the TwitchCon, that was the first main event, and then I guess where did things head from there?
Mostly just continuously streaming after that. After TwitchCon, kept kind of going. Got
Did you
partnered
pursue
on
full
Twitch.
time? Okay.
No, I worked a full-time job at the same time.
Okay. Gotcha.
I worked full time as an IT, 40 hours a week, Monday to Friday,
hmm
standard. Um, and then while doing that, I got partnered in the end of summer 2019.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty quick for starting 2 years earlier.
Oh, well, technically I started streaming 2018 because I didn't really do anything in
Oh,
2017.
did did you mainly just watch or did you like record but not stream?
Yeah, I did like mainly like barely recorded, like offline every now and again, like once a month max. Like I pretty much don't count 2017 for streaming because I didn't really do anything.
Fair enough.
Wouldn't be
Okay.
until like January 2018 that I was like, hey, okay, let's try this.
Let's try this Twitch thing. Well, it seemed to work out pretty well. People like their horror, so works out.
Yeah.
That's good. So I guess so you hit partner in like mid 2019, sounds like.
Yep.
Mhm.
Oh,
So,
wait. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
okay. And yeah. D You're full-time now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess what led to that? When did that happen?
Well, after I got partnered, I think about like maybe October or something, or like November. Um, I think I got a game into AGDQ, but that wasn't what did it. I just had that. It was like a weird game. But at that time, streaming more often, trying to get more time in. And at that point, I paid off my student loans, and I was like, hey, I don't have those anymore. What do I do now? Realized I didn't like my job, and for the most part, like I didn't really have a whole lot of responsibility because I've been saving money with that. I was like, hey, I'm gonna try out streaming, and then it kind of just went from there. And then I ended up like working a few more months to save money, and then I ended up leaving my job to go full time streaming at the end of January 2020.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's fun. It's always nice to
Um,
get out of a job you don't like to pursue a passion. So
the
I
funny
respect.
part though is I always kind of think it's funny that I timed it that way because a month later COVID happened.
Ah, yes, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on that, and I didn't expect that. But there was like a month where I essentially like lived how like people describe COVID. It's like I've been doing that for like a month already. All right, now I'm just nothing changed. Literally nothing changed at that point. Started working from home. I had graveyard shift hours. Didn't leave the house much. I was like, oh, okay, so now nothing changed. Cool.
You were just ahead of the curve, clearly.
Yeah, I probably would have like just gotten kicked out of my old job or like I think it was
Hmm.
like put on furlough or something because I mean at that point they didn't really need me there. So it's like, oh, I could have waited.
Hmm. Well, it all worked out. That's what
Yeah,
matters.
I
So,
suppose it panned out.
so you said you got into GDQ. Was that AGDQ 2020?
Yeah, I ran a weird janky game called Nightcry.
Well, never heard of it. So,
It's it was a key part of Awful Block.
great. I love Awful
One of
Block.
the one of those games.
So,
Yeah, I've kind of always done always enjoyed Awful Block stuff, so
hmm again,
wanted to throw my hat in the ring there.
there's plenty of awful horror games as well as good ones, but I don't know. I think like the awful horror games are the real fun runs to watch, just absurdly silly.
Yeah, it's something you kind of have to see.
Hmm. Yeah, so what's that game like, I guess?
It's kind of like it's supposed to be the Clock Tower spiritual successor, but it bombed pretty bad.
Ah. Well, like
Honestly, I
official like successor, that's what
yeah,
they were
they
calling
paid
it.
money to use that title.
Oh no.
It was a part of the budget. It had like a Kickstarter thing of like $300,000. It barely met it, and it was definitely known as a bit of a meme for years.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, it did well if it's an awful block. So
yeah. It's kind of funny with that GDQ. I think I was just beyond it like the dead of night. Like, oh hey, we're gonna put you on the time that nobody cares about. And it's like, oh great, thanks. But
someone's got to
then
do it.
everyone went way over estimate, and I went from I think I was about like 5 a.m. and like it got so bad I was on at like noon.
Oh my
I
god.
think some people were complaining. I was like, "Where's like Legend of Zelda?" Because like I think it was originally slated for that time. I was like, sorry, hello,
Here's a
here's
shitty
Nightcrawler."
game.
Yeah, like it was like weird. I've never been like in a room at like noon. It was like, oh, God, I'm a noon runner. What happened?
I
It was a
guess it kind of
pretty
worked out.
yeah. The run went pretty well actually. The game was certainly something.
Mm.
And that's weirdly, I think my best GDQ run. I think.
Like in terms of skill
Uh, really
or
everything. I don't know.
everything.
I think it's like I think it like I think it was received the best. Felt good about it. Just generally a good old time.
Well, sick.
Yeah.
So what's that run like? Like, why is it?
Yeah, you point and click,
But people
but it's
people love it.
3D, not 2D.
Okay, so when you say spiritual successor, like literally to this
Yeah, it's
game.
like
Okay.
yeah, it's they quite literally it's made by the same original director of Clock Tower.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he
Un-
wanted to bring
unf-
Clock Tower to the modern age, but he made a very questionable game.
but he made awful block content
Yeah,
instead.
again, it's
Interesting.
something you got to see. It's like
Okay. I'll add it.
describing it won't
I'll
do
add
it
it to my
justice.
list. All right, fair enough. I'll add it to the list. That's fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, it has some very interesting looks.
Hmm. Fair enough. Well, but I'll add that to my content backlog. That I'm now
Yeah.
my interest has been piqued. It's funny, I was
Yeah,
at
and
that
then
event, but
that was my first real like GDQ run. Like GDQX was fun, but like that felt like an actual like the
yeah, it's
larger
actually
GDQ, I guess.
AGDQ
Like
where
yeah, I
they
was like it felt different, so it was nice.
yeah, definitely a lot more people usually, and definitely a lot of more people watching for
Oh yeah, it
sure.
was noon.
Especially noon. It was probably hitting
Yeah.
six figures
Yeah,
of
normally
viewer
horror blog is
numbers.
like, all right, you're on like 4 a.m. You're lucky to have that. Like, okay, fine, thanks. Like here's a graveyard slot. Sweet. And then there's like the two rows of horror people. It's like, hey, hello. I know all of you.
It's funny. Hey, I
Yeah.
mean, it worked out. If it was well received, then I guess it was worth being at the noon slot by chance.
Yeah. Sort of funny how it happens, I guess.
Well, good deal. So then COVID hits. unfortunate. Didn't affect you though. It sounds like.
Uh, yeah. If anything, I think it was actually a positive or something. Not saying it's good that it happened, but um, I went full time at a time where a lot more people were essentially forced to stay home, and I think Twitch boomed heavily at that point.
Oh, it was crazy how
Yeah.
much it boomed when that happened.
So I kind of got lucky in the timing, which again didn't really plan that. I sort of just wanted to leave my job.
I don't think we're accusing you of
I
creating
know.
COVID
I would hope not.
to.
That'd be weird if that happened. If I had that power,
Now this is a good horror game
I
idea.
wouldn't be streaming video games if I had that power. I'd probably be doing something else.
Yeah. So I get. So what did you do when you started full time?
More or less the same, honestly. I don't even remember exactly what the plan was.
Just
Just kind
whatever.
of generally getting my footing, trying to play certain games. I think I tried doing Nightcry immediately afterward, but wasn't like all that fun. So I don't even remember what games I was doing at the time. It was probably some combination of Silent 2 and Dead Rising.
The classics.
Yeah, like those games did do well for a while. So it's like, hey, how about we do those?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
then some other
people love
ones
it.
thrown in, but can't quite remember off the top of my head.
But did you stick to primarily speedrunning
Yep.
throughout the
Every
time?
now and again, I mean, I always have to play new games in order to learn new games, so it kind of worked out well that I can do variety. So I can always like every now and again to casually play a new game. It's like, hey, where's the speed running? Well, this is how I do new speed runs. I have to play games so I can find out if I want to do them again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it actually worked out pretty well with that. So it's like, hey, now I can just kind of play whatever.
Mm-hmm. I always say that you should play a game casually throughout before learning the run.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
yeah, so it's cool you can just like play a casual game just to see if it's a good speed run so then you can
Yeah,
fill out
I
your
mean,
backlog a little more, I
yeah,
guess.
you don't have to get record in every game as long as you feel good
Mhm.
about it. It's not like the worst run on the board. I feel pretty good.
Mhm. Also
Yeah.
true. Hell, your casual playthrough, you can technically submit that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you
But it's
can.
fun to look into what people have found. Some games are like more broken than you would think. So it's like, hey, this is pretty cool. Why don't people do that? Oh, all right.
So what kind of games did you do a casual playthrough and then looked into it and it ended up being like really cool to run?
Oh God, what did I do? I mean, there's a good few. So yeah, like the list here or something. Let's see. What would a good one be? Because I'm trying to think of like I don't know. Like casually is kind of weird because like
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot later. Like let's see here. Definitely a lot of newer games that came out at the time. Like that kind of like, oh hey, new game just came out. Why don't we try running it? One that became cool after doing it casually. Let's see. A lot of indie games. I actually did a whole catalog of like every game I've done and like my general thoughts on them.
Hmm.
One I really liked was more recent was like The Darkness.
Hmm.
It was like a old like 360 era FPS horror game. It had
So
like a surprising amount of stuff you can do with it. It was also like only locked to console, so I
hmm.
don't think a lot of people had access to it.
So very niche.
Yeah, but it had like a lot of what you would expect. It would have like bunny hopping. It would have prop jumping. So it's like, oh, this is
Oh, interesting.
yeah, but it sucks 'cause you have to do it on console.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
When
normally
you have to do
your
those
mouse and
tricks, you need the
keyboard, nice and
mouse.
easy,
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
no, you have to do them on a controller.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, but it's again, it's neat. Like you find stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's like, oh wow, this is actually pretty busted. And then yeah. Another one I liked was a game called Manhunt. I like playing. I was like, what's the speedrun look like? And then I just looked it up, and you have a guy clipping through a bunch of walls. Like, whoa, that's how does he do that?
Always a
Then
good
you,
find.
yeah,
Is Manhunt isn't the Rockstar game, is it?
yeah, it is.
Okay. That's funny.
Yeah, it's I actually came to really enjoy that one lately. It's pretty tight.
Mm. Like for the speed run.
Yeah,
Mm.
I enjoyed the casual. I was like, oh, why don't I speedrun it? Then I looked in. I was like, this is actually really cool
Well, maybe
because you use a trick where I think it's like you have a way of like leaning, and the character will just lean. But if you do that in like certain spots and keep like zooming in and out of like first person, third person, for some reason you can clip through walls.
mm.
So you
Kind of
kind of just
sounds like Donkey Kong 64 of all
a
games.
little bit actually, yeah. It does work exactly like that. The whole crouch clipping in that game, I think it's like the where you keep going in and
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, kind of like that.
They're exactly the same.
Man, I actually like DK64. It's pretty tight. I like watching it a lot.
No, that's a great speed run, but
Yeah.
definitely not a horror game.
I mean, it has Creepy Castle and Frantic Factory. You can make an argument.
Oh, we could
I've
argue
seen
anything at that
Mad
point.
Jack. I've seen the King K cutouts.
Fair enough.
It has its moments.
Well, clearly it's on your backlog then, right?
Yeah, I thought about it.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, as long as you can make the argument that it fits into the genre, I guess there's nothing to worry about.
But I mean, at that point though, I've started doing like weird stuff too, or stuff I thought would just be kind of fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, like the general vibe. Like at a point, like if you get locked into only the genre, then it's sort of, oh hey, then how are you doing blank? It's like I don't know, I don't care. I just
Fair
gotta do it
enough.
because it might be fun.
Hmm. Yeah, it's definitely cool to be able to branch out, but
Yeah,
again,
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
and that's the way it goes.
Yeah. But awful block stuff definitely helps with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know usually there's at least one horror game in Awful Block.
Usually, I actually don't know if there is this time around, but it's always fun stuff. I like awful block.
I know. Golf with your grandmother sounds horrifying if you ask me. So.
And it could be. It could. Yeah, there was like a horror golf game in a few like
Oh, that's
years
right.
ago. Like I don't remember. Gone Golfing, I think it was.
Yeah, horror genre's wild nowadays. They'll make a horror game out of anything.
Yeah, they have quite a lot. And then I'm trying to think really quick because I'm trying to wonder like for like because no on the topic of GDQ runs and all that. I'm trying to wonder how many of the ones I have are like awful block. I think 3 of them are.
Oh wow.
And a total of around hold on, 2, like 10 games.
Wow.
Yeah, 10 games of GDQs. 3 of them are awful block.
Mm.
Or silly block too. Like I
Silly
get
slash
the
awful.
same.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're the same thing.
They are. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I ran
Well,
3 at awful block. Or silly block.
I guess we can go into like the GDQ history, I guess. So the
Yeah.
first main stage was Silent Hill 2. Oh, no, wait. That was GDQX. And then the weird Clock Tower spinoff was HQ
Yeah.
2020. So I guess you got into the online events after COVID hit then.
Yeah, I ended up getting into SGDQ 2020 with a really dumb game
Oh, great.
because I played it and I thought this game is charming as hell. Why
Mhm.
not try something weird? And the game was called Night Trap.
Oh, the Sega CD game.
Yep, it was
Yep.
an
Okay.
old Sega CD game. The closest I can say, it's kind of like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, you would monitor 8 cameras, and then you needed to capture these vampires as they broke into the house. And then the speedrun was, hey, it's more of like a completion or 100% things. Like, oh, best ending, capture all the things.
Hmm.
So it's not just beat the game fast because it's on a rail. It's literally a movie. Like you
Hmm.
can't beat the game any faster, but it's hey, you have to actually do the thing, but that's not really that entertaining on its own because it's just beating a game on a GDQ stage. Anyone can do it. The difference is, though, not everyone can do it blindfolded.
Oh, I did see this. I remember this. Okay.
Yeah, so I decided that I would hammer in the entirety of the route. I learned all the movements of like, oh, where do I go? What room do I go in? There's like 100 captures in the game. I don't even remember how many movements. Probably like 100 or like 100 and like plus. But yeah, I essentially did all of the captures, all of the changes, blindfolded.
That's crazy.
Yeah, if you asked me to do it again, I probably couldn't do it right now because it was essentially me just looking at the route and then repeating it in my head constantly and just remembering. It's like, okay, this. I had to do it offline a bunch, and then it's like, okay, I think I got it. And then day of, it actually worked. It was like, oh, hey, there it is. And then apparently that is like the only like real great achievement I think I've done at a GDQ. As weird as that sounds.
certainly
Like, I
unique.
remember there being, like, weird articles about it. It's like, "Oh, okay, that's kinda
Really?
neat." Like,
Okay.
it's such a weird game to do blindfolded, so, like, people were, like, talking about for a bit, even though I don't remember liking that run that much. Like, I was okay with it, but, like, I kinda wish I did it a little different, but
I mean, it worked out
yeah.
apparently, so that's good.
Yeah, it was fun. I don't like a giant blindfold. I was nervous for a bit because the game has, like, a bug where the audio will fuck up, and it's like, "Oh,
Oh no.
if that happens, I literally can't do it because audio cue."
Hmm. That's your only sense you have. You kind of need
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But luckily the game is honestly, even blindfolded, is still pretty easy.
Mm.
But it was fun at
What
the
is it?
time.
Literally just like executing like remembered
You
route.
essentially have to remember every room you're supposed to be in at certain times, which isn't that hard because you just have to remember the order of like, "Oh, okay, I went to this room, this one's next." So as long as you remember exactly where you're at in the timeline, you're probably fine.
So there's no
Uh,
RNG.
nope,
Okay, well that's great.
all in a, it's just a lot of just all right, just remember it's happening.
Hmm.
For the most part, you can kind of use the game as your own like knowledge because if you're in the right room, sound is probably happening
Yes.
because otherwise the areas are quiet.
Oh, okay.
So you'd go to the room, you'd wait to hear sounds like, okay, I'm in the right spot. You mash the capture button because you can just kind of timing is non-existent. You just
Yeah.
and then you go to the next one. There are a few points though that you needed to time it well because if you didn't time it well, it's an immediate game over. So
Mm.
those are probably the harder parts, which is like one capture you had to I think wait just for like I think I used like laughing as a cue. Like the way she laughs is just different. It's like, all right, there it is. And then the other one I just used like music beats because it's like, oh hey, the music was gonna rise at this point. It's like, okay, there it is.
Mm. I mean, I know beat counting is a pretty big
Yeah.
blindfolded tactic.
So it ended up working out. And I think I'm like they put me on like the blindfolded gamers site. It's like, hey, I gotta say I'm on there. That's cool. I think Bubsy might run it or something. Or
Oh,
I
that'd
think
be
it's some
great.
animated. Yeah, it's fun. Like because like as an honor because I've seen a lot of cool blindfolded runs. Like hey, these people are awesome. Glad I get to be on there. I don't stream blindfolded games anymore, but it's fun when you know actually get to do it at least once.
I mean, you truly have the pinnacle of blindfolded accomplishments right there. So it's
Clearly, yeah. And
nothing
I've
else
seen
to
some
do.
wild. I've seen some wild stuff on like blindfolded runs. So I have respect for them, although I don't really want to do them as much.
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing I love about it is just being able to watch them not be able to see and see what
Yeah,
they can do that way.
yeah.
Although I'm sure I'll try Mario 1 blindfolded someday. But
Well, there you go.
w- we've all got to try it at some point. We got to do the game we're good at and see if we can take away a primary sense and try it again. I guess Night Trap makes things a little easier, luckily. So,
Yeah.
but no, yeah, I think I saw that run live because I like remember it, and I definitely did wasn't doing anything when COVID hit. So that was my first GDQ event actually as well.
It was a good time.
Yeah, no, I, I enjoyed that event. Obviously, I would have preferred COVID didn't happen and I went in person, but I mean,
Yeah. I
they did a
definitely
great
did that.
job. Like they raised a ton of money, even
Yeah.
like more than usual. Like no, that was a good event for being online. A lot of banger
Went pretty
runs.
well.
All right, so I guess did you get into like the next like almost every event after that?
Let's see. So for runs I've done, I actually pulled up the list. I did GDQX 2018, AGDQ 2020, SGDQ 2020. I had two runs in AGDQ 2021. I had one run in AGDQ 2022. After that, I'd have a run at SGDQ 2023. I got into GDQX 2023, and then I had two runs at AGDQ 2024.
No, there you go. So
Tend to do a lot better at AGDQ than SGDQ apparently. Not sure why.
probably just coincidence. I'm sure there's no like underlying factor there, but
I think it's the way that horror trends for the events. It's kind of weird.
really? Hmm.
Yeah, I think SGDQ likes to be a lot like lighter.
Hmm.
They don't like to be as
Okay.
macabre or like grim. So they tend to take a lot like more lenient. They try to be a little more strict on what horror gets in. Now, obviously, there's no confirmation on that, but like it's
Hmm.
always been a feeling I've had because like I can get all my weird stuff in AGDQ, but SGDQ is like okay, this is I've been like twice.
I
I
get
don't think I
like
ever felt good about SGDQ.
I get like needing an event to like, all right, here's the weird thing. We need an event
Well,
to not.
the other reason was because back in the day, SGDQ actually banned certain horror games.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it was like the charities, like Doctors Without Borders, is more strict than Red Cancer
Oh,
Foundation.
okay. I see.
Like I think one of the older things was a game that was Resident Evil 7 wasn't allowed at SGDQ, but it was allowed at AGDQ.
Was that
And it was only
Biohazard?
recently that they lightened up on that. But I still think that statement or that thought process kind of
Yeah,
remains.
I didn't think of that. Yeah, that
No, so it's
that
not
makes
like me doing
perfect
something like,
sense.
oh, it's out of nowhere, but like, no, it's like straight up. I think
No, yeah,
SGDQ's always been more lighthearted. Well, AGDQ is the edgy one.
yeah. I forget like the charities have a say in the event.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I mean, like with that too, it's like what I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6 AGDQ runs, 10 total, and like most of them are AGDQ.
yeah, because a couple of those were GDQX events, which are
And then I got like what? I got a game on backup, and I got a game into this AGDQ. Kind of just
yeah.
further proving AGDQ is kind of nice. SGDQ, I think I've been in like twice.
Oh well, it it's fine. So
Yeah.
so the last one we talked about was the Night Trap. So what was the next game you ran at the event?
The next two were The Mummy for the PlayStation 1, which is another awful block game, which is it was alright. Like it was an okay
Hey, the
run.
Universal ride's fine. So.
It was neat. But then after that was Haunting Ground, which was a weird PS2 like really rare horror game.
Hmm.
It's like one of those games I was like, oh, here's a horror game that costs like a lot of money because it's so rare.
Hmm.
But I like running it because I had it on like PS3 downloads. It's like, hey, I just downloaded it.
Yeah, fair. So, what are those games about in speedrun sense? I guess the
Well, The Mummy
Mummy's,
just
yeah,
licensed movie trash. I don't have much to add
licensed
on to that.
movie trash. I mean, that's all you need,
Um,
really.
but Haunting Ground was another Clock Tower kind of spin-off thing. It was Capcom's attempt at wanting to do Clock Tower, but it played more like an actual game, not point and click.
Oh, okay. I was
Um,
just about to ask.
yeah, that game was interesting because the big thing was I've never been. It's the only time it's happened. They warned me about the game. They're like, "Hey, be careful." It has some pretty graphic scenes. I think it's actually one of the more graphic games that have been in a GDQ. So
Hmm.
they told me, "Hey, do not show those scenes."
Oh. Hmm.
Yeah. I during the run, I actually had a part go very wrong where that exact scene was going to pop up, and I was kind of freaking out because like, oh boy, what am I going to do here? It got one of those rare moments that you don't really see very often. And then I think went like 5 minutes overestimate, really trying to not have bad things happen. But then ended up working out, pulled through, and then I was actually really happy how the run turned out because the GDQ Games Committee actually was like, "Hey, thank you for doing that run. It was a blast to watch, and I've never been thanked by them for doing a run." It's like, "Hey, that's cool. Thanks."
Cool.
It was fun.
That's interesting because you're almost playing like a second horror game, as in not freaking
Oh
out,
no, no,
not
yeah, yeah.
trying
They
to
told me straight
trigger
up
the
like it was like
scene.
the only thing they warned me about. I was like, "Hey, don't let this happen." Got it. Things about to happen. Oh my god. Like normally it's super avoidable, and like I had a backup even if it like if it's a certain death. So if I got
Mhm.
that death, it's like okay, immediately Alt F4. But
That
yeah, luckily it worked out.
uh, that's just super fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Just a horror game within a horror game, but the horror game being the run itself and not having a show thing, or you get banned for life. Not really, but
Yeah.
no, that's really interesting. So, oh, I think my computer just died. Oh, are
That
we
doesn't
back?
sound good.
No. I don't know what that was about. It just froze for like 5 seconds. Anyway, things seems to be in order now. Anyway, so I guess what was the next next event?
After that, I guess funny enough was Dead Rising.
Oh, of course. We're
Yeah,
back.
well, I mean, I never ran it at a GDQ until that point. I kept
Hmm.
trying to submit it, but they wouldn't take it because it was kind of weird. But then they
Yeah.
finally went, okay, you can do it, and it went well. I was really happy the way it turned out. At that point, I felt like a lot more cemented for Dead Rising. I think at that point I had the world record at the time, so it's like, hey, okay, I'm feeling good about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Yeah,
was just
I
kind of a
I
nice.
know they usually don't like kind of mods in their main events, so that could maybe be a factor.
mm,
But especially back then, what was this 2020?
2022.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I know they're a lot less strict than they used to be nowadays, which is cool. Like they're going for a lot more wacky stuff, and I super appreciate that. But because it's just
Yeah.
fun.
No, I submitted the game for a while. It was, didn't have its moments entirely, but finally got it.
Hmm.
After that was just Dead Rising 2, kind of following it up like maybe a year and a half later. It's like,
Hmm.
hey, Dead Rising 1 went well, how about we do the second one? And then it's like, sure, cool. And
A
then after that,
natural.
it's I guess kind of funny. Two of my runs after that were Silent Hill 2.
Oh.
Yeah, after doing it in 2018, I started doing it more, but specifically hard mode. And then some new RNG stuff got found. It was kind of a whole thing back in the day.
Mm,
Because we found a way to essentially solve every single puzzle in the game without having to actually do them.
that's good.
Normally they're RNG randomized, but we as like a whole thing where I remember us streaming the game, and then some guy came into my stream and he predicted a 4-digit randomized number, and I tried telling him politely, "That's not how that works, sir." But if you're right, then that's cool. And then I got to the room. He was immediately right, and then I knew instantly. I was like, okay, he knows something. You can't predict that. You're not predicting a 4-digit randomized number. And
That's
then
how you discovered that there was like an RNG
yeah,
glitch.
afterward, I just told the mods immediately. I was like, hey, is it cheating if someone tells me the number answers? And I was like, what do you mean cheating? It's like, how could that be cheating? It's like, some guy told me the number answers and he got it right. And like, he can consistently get it right. I was like, and then they'll turn into a whole situation. He essentially found a way that you boot up the game where you can just manipulate it.
Oh.
It actually gets used nowadays for the classic version of the game. But I kept wanting to submit to events because, like, hey, hard mode doesn't get done, and also this is now a thing, so I wanted to show it off. And
Hmm.
then it got into the GDQX 2023, and then oddly enough, it got pulled in from backup of 2024 AGDQ.
Hmm.
So I was like, hey, I actually get to do 2 runs because I had Clock Tower into that same event.
Got it. Well,
Which is
Clock
kind of
Tower
funny.
finally
It's
got
like,
its
yeah,
mains.
lately it's been more of the okay, here are the games I've kind of always wanted to get into events, and then they got it. It's like, hey, cool.
We've come full circle.
In a way, yeah. But then, hey, I guess a Pokemon runner couldn't show up, so they put me on as a bonus run. I've never had that. That was the only time I ever had one of those,
Bonus
and probably one
run.
of the only times I will have one of those.
Well, lucky break, I guess.
Yeah, it was a fun time. That was the beginning of this year, and I thought it went well.
Hmm. No, that's I've never heard anything quite like someone in chat like
Yeah,
finding
it was
the
freaky. It
RNG thing.
was like a
That's so
whole thing.
cool. That's very
Um,
fascinating.
Yeah, I think my most watched clip on Twitch is like me just kind of freaking out. Although I didn't have chat up at the time on the screen, now I do, but like
Mm.
someone just typed the numbers in chat and I was like, I checked the numbers and then they were like, right. It's like, how did you know that?
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And it's trippy how it all goes.
Mm. Kind of reminds me because this was in one of the summoning salt videos where Abney was doing his Mario Kart 64 runs and someone was like, "Oh, I found a new skip." And it's like, "Yeah, right." Looks the video. "Oh, that's real." I love when chat people just do that and it creates a
Yeah.
whole thing because that
I mean, a
does
lot of
not
people
happen
play
very
games when they're
frequently.
kids and they try things out or they have the different perspectives and you'd be surprised what actually happens because somebody will play a game that things are bound to break.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's an awesome story and now it's a whole thing. So, shout outs to
Yeah.
that guy, I guess. And my computer's having a time right now. Oh well. Stream's still live, so we're good. So
All right.
sounds like that's the full GDQ history, although you got into HDQ 2025, which is in just a couple weeks now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it should be exciting. I got in on backup and I have a run in.
So what are the games?
The run in is well, Dead Rising.
Of course,
They
yes.
had a new remake, deluxe remaster, they call it.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I did that as a late submission, and then they took it. Just like, cool, that should be fun. I get to show off like Dead Rising remake, which is like the same thing pretty much.
But they did mod like the time, right? Like
Yeah,
we're
no,
still good.
they added
Okay.
a lot of quality of life, so it's like
Okay.
actually speedrunnable without having to mod it. So it's like, hey,
Oh,
don't worry, I
without
don't have to
having to
use a bunch
mod
of
it.
weird programs on your computer. I can just do it.
All right, that's cool. I
And
didn't.
then the other game's a weird game. It's not a horror game. It's a beat 'em up. It's a PS2 beat 'em up.
Mm,
It's called The Bouncer.
okay.
Yeah, you play as bouncers and you fight ninjas and eventually go to space.
Sounds normal.
Yeah, I submitted it, thought it'd be fun. They took it on backup for some reason. I was like, cool. I'm fine with that. So
Well,
just making sure I don't make an ass of myself.
well, that's good. Yep,
Yeah,
2 weeks. So
should be exciting.
stay tuned, I guess, everyone.
Yeah.
But um, so that's kind of every GDQ run. It sounds like so far. You've done
I
like
do
other
have,
marathons, right?
yeah, I got one more for those. It's kind of fun. I did an event called RTA in Japan.
Oh, you did that. Like, did you go in person
Yeah,
or did they do like the
I didn't go in
online?
person. They had remote runners.
All right, that's good.
But I got a friend of mine who speaks Japanese. She helped me compensate. But keyword helped because what I did was I'm pretty good at memorizing things, I guess. So I hired a buddy of mine who does Japanese translation. I typed out essentially what my English commentary would be, and then I had him like translate all of my English commentary for like what I would probably feel comfortable saying in the run.
Hmm.
And then he sat with me and he read me everything, and I memorized that script. He helped me with the pronunciation, and in front of a audience of people who speak an entirely different language than me, I spoke entirely in Japanese.
That's
And I had
really
I
cool.
had my friend help a lot more with like the general commentary, but I had like a lot of major beats where I just ran Dead Rising in Japanese.
Hmm,
Yeah,
that's cool. Definitely a lot more work than the usual marathon run, but
it was fun though. I dressed up like Bandit Keith. I tried to be like super American. It's like, hey, here it is.
all right.
Yeah, and then I'd probably run again if I got in and do the same thing. But it's a fun time.
Well, that's really unique. It's
Yeah.
pretty sick. I mean, most people can't
Oh, I don't
do
really.
two
I know
languages.
like
So.
Japanese basics. I can't tell you much more than like basic readings, but
No, yeah, you
uh,
just again,
I just
there's like
memorized
all
it.
script, yeah.
No.
I mean, that's a unique way of doing it, and I mean that does require effort. So I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but
pretty
works
cool.
works, right?
No, no, I think that's super cool. So yeah, and yeah, it's cool they did the remote because kind of hard for people outside of Japan to get to Japan sometimes.
Yeah, but was a good time.
No, yeah, that's cool. Um, so speaking of GDQ, you host a hotfix show, right?
Yeah, I started working on that at the end of 2020, actually.
Oh wow, so it's been going on a little while.
Yeah, about 4 years, I think.
Hmm. So what's the show?
Just pretty much horror block.
Well, there you go.
I pick horror games. There are horror games, and then I gotta help GDQ expand their horror list a bit.
So what's the show called again?
Speedruns from the Crypt.
And when
I
does
tried to
it
make it a
air?
Tales from the Crypt thing because I thought it'd be
Ah,
funny.
got it. And does it air like every other week?
I think it's like every other Wednesday.
Every other
So I think the
Wednesday?
next one's like New Year's Day.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Have you had any
It's
fun
fine.
experience hosting that?
Yeah, it's mostly just chill.
Mm,
Put on
yeah,
games, get to watch games, get to listen to things, but nah, it's always just kind of been a chill time.
fair enough. I mean, people obviously like it if it's been around for so long
Mm.
because
Yeah.
it's rare for
One
a
of my
show to
favorite
last so long.
memories, actually, I do have one. I have more than one, but like one of the ones I really remember kind of ties back into the whole thing today. It was the first Christmas I did. I think it was like the first or second. I don't remember which one. But I had on a runner, and I liked having this game on because it was a pretty cool game. I like running it a lot during the holiday season, but it's called Parasite Eve.
Hmm.
It's known as like the Christmas horror game. So it's like, hey, it's the holidays. I usually like to have it on. Sometimes I don't get to put it on, but like this year I didn't have it on. But like next year I probably do that again. But for the first time I had it, or the second time I had it, I think it was the second time. Um, I had a runner who can do the whole game blindfolded,
Hmm.
which that is an RPG that has I don't know how the hell they did it or routed it. Like
Wow,
straight up, it's a RPG with like moving elements entirely the whole time. A
crazy.
whole like 4-hour RPG they did blindfolded,
Oh my god.
and I don't know how they did it. But they had like a route, they had everything. It's like this is wild, and then I don't think I've ever seen anything like that ever again.
Wow, that's sick. I'm always
Yeah,
so impressed by blindfolded runners.
yeah. I was a runner by the name of Palmer.
Got it. So that was just showcased on the
Yeah,
show. Yeah.
I think it's like they saw it on the GDQ VODs or YouTube.
Hmm. Wow. People are impressive.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I think that covers all of GDQ. It sounds like,
All right.
unless there's anything I missed.
No, that's about it.
Hmm. I guess we can kind of try to jump into the just non GDQ stuff, like normal streaming stuff, if we haven't gone over anything from more recent times. I know we kind of focused on the old days, I guess, but
I mean, usually just kind of learning games as they go. I'm trying to learn more, grind more every now and again, and it's kind of finding the balance between that.
hmm.
Slowly I've been trying to build up more speed runs, but like I guess I haven't really said how many I know. Oh, you know a lot. How many you know? Like 196.
What the? Okay.
Yeah, I guess saying a lot isn't really a lot. I think hearing the number is probably more accurate.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because maybe 2 years ago, no, the last year and a half, um, so 2023, people are like, oh, you haven't ran some of these games in forever. Do you still know it? So what I did is I wanted to do this for a while, and I'll probably do it again at some point. But I think it was like 168 or 100 like 69 or something at the time. For learning games. I took like a month and a half or like a month or two, and then I spent almost every streaming day doing every single one of the games on that list in a row.
Oh my god.
I try to break it down into 12-hour blocks because I think YouTube has like limits on how long you can upload. Just like, hey, 12 hours. That works.
Hmm.
Try to make it 12-hour segments so I can have upload.
Wow. And
And
that
it took
took one and
something
a
like
half months.
200 hours.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like I was always like, I think like if you do anything, it's gonna be some petty comments. I remember having some people like mention like, "Oh, you just know a lot of games because they're shorts," and it's like most of the games I learned were like an hour plus.
Hmm.
I had a few short games, but like for every game I had that was like 2 minutes, I had like 8-hour run. I was like, oh,
I
okay.
mean, even if it was all short, that's still 170
Yeah, like
almost games.
160, and then like it went over 200 hours. Like most of those games were probably on average like an hour and a half.
My god.
Keyword average, like. Funny enough, I actually did end up learning Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories later on. I thought it'd be funny, and then it took me like 12 hours to beat it. It's like, oh, this is pain. But I
Well,
beat it. I did it, and it's like an actual run because, taking that game normally takes a lot longer to beat. It's like, well, I'm not good, but I did it.
you did do it, and
I did the speed strats. I did the thing. It's mostly just can you play the game and get lucky, which most of it's not. No.
hmm, and that was one of the original ideas. So it came around
Yeah.
finally, right?
Yeah. Like a lot of it just kind of like learning, like, oh, I'm passing whatever roadblock was there.
Hmm.
Yeah, I usually try to get like a decent time before moving on to the next or like anything like that. Although there's some that would definitely be touch and go if I went back to because they're not the easiest, but they usually just take some time. It's like, all right, I'll feel it out.
Hmm. Sorry, my laptop is just not having a good day. I feel like I keep
All
bringing it up, but
good, all good.
I have skipped almost 3,000 frames to encoding lag. Epic. Very good.
Now these things happen.
My laptop's the real horror game right now. It's freaking me out right
Something like that.
now. I guess it's all got to be within the theme. Fair enough.
Yeah, bit fitting.
Hmm. Yeah. That's a cool. I mean, that's a cool project. That's a lot of fucking games, though. Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
I wanted to do it again after hitting 200,
Oh, have you hit
but I am
200,
4
or
off
did you say
that.
you were like at 180
I am
something?
4 off.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I probably could have hit it already if I just learned whatever random game. Like, oh, here's a 5-minute game. But no, I've been like picky on what I like doing for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like recently, oh, I actually need to add one to the list. Like I learned, well, Dead Rising. I think the remake I counted. I learned a 6.5-hour game called Slitterhead on the hardest difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'd be fun. It took, well, it was fun at first, and then it stopped being fun. Like the Silent 2 remake came out, so I did that. And then I learned some weird ones too. Like I learned a game called Sleeping Dogs.
Oh, I played that. That's
Yeah,
the
the
like
Chinese
PS.
like
Yeah,
GTA thing.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a 4-hour run. It's really fun. I like doing it actually.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like, oh hey, could I have hit it sooner if I learned like 5-minute weird horror game? Of course I have. I don't want to do that though. I'd rather just, I don't know, put more into it. I think after 200, I might just learn a bunch of random ones. Like, oh hey, look, here's all the things I could have done, just to kind of show how much it would boost by. But for a big 200, I feel like I want to have like a lead in.
Yeah. So it's not just horror. It's like any game you run.
Yeah, at this point, I kind of started just doing whatever. There's definitely a
Mm-hmm.
point at which I started caring a lot less, and it was probably just one of the April Fool's days. People were asking, "Oh, will you do the silly games?" Like, yeah, but the moment I do it, I'm gonna start opening up to weird stuff. And then I did it. I was like, okay, now we can get real weird with it.
So 4 games from 200. That's
Yeah, like I said, Awful Block tended to do a lot for like expanding, I guess,
mm-hmm.
because I did like a lot of trash. I did like the town with no name at one point. It's like a short cowboy game. Like I did the main story. It's terrible, but it's really easy. I routed a really dumb game called Lowrider. I thought it'd be funny because I'm Mexican and I like lowriders. Like, hey, I'll say lowrider, and then it turned into like a 3-hour game. And I was like, why the hell did I do this? Why did I learn this game? Why did I route this? And then a lot of movie games end up jumping into that pretty well.
Yeah. Plenty
Yeah,
of those out
but I
there
mean,
for
it's
sure.
pretty fun being able to have that exact dynamic, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And
Like
I
sometimes I find a weird game I like, other times like, okay, I don't want to do that. Well, that's actually how I learned like the bouncer and stuff.
got it. And you keep track of all of this on like a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I got like because I stopped doing speedrun.com as much because like I don't always want to just submit a bunch of random things to a board and like forget about it.
Yeah, no,
So I
that's
just
totally
put them on a
fair.
spreadsheet, and then at some point I'm like, okay, I'll feel good enough about these runs to eventually like do a more of a commentated run that I feel good about. And then often I forget to actually do that. So I'm like, well, it's in the well of knowledge. At some point I'll run it back.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah.
I guess doing the 200 game speed run makes it so you have
Yeah,
to run it back at
that'll
least
be fun.
once.
Yeah, I'm not that worried about a lot of the games, but it should be fun.
Do you have an idea of when you would do this?
Whenever I learn 200.
All right.
Probably shortly afterward, assuming there's like nothing major coming around. Like no
Mm.
major game releases, no major stuff as a whole.
All right. So maybe not too long from now.
Yeah, I mean 6 away.
Ah, well, good deal. That's just so many games. And
Yeah.
when you learn a game, do you primarily just do one category then?
Yeah, I usually just try to do whatever the main category is. Every now and again I'll try more than one, but sometimes it doesn't pan out.
Mm-hmm. I guess that makes things a little less complicated. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so if
mean,
it's the main, it's usually any percent. So that
yeah,
also
it's
helps.
usually, well, not it's whatever I think is most interesting. Like sometimes
Oh,
it's
okay.
any percent, sometimes it's like, but I don't want to have like, oh, any percent, it's like 5 minutes. Like, no, I want to do like the whole game. Like I
Yeah, if
mentioned
there's
the
like
Town No
a
Name being
skip
a meme
straight to
one.
the
It's
end.
like I think the main category for Town No Name is like a 30-second run you barely do. So it's like I want to do the story, and it's like 10 minutes. Okay, that's better. It's like I'll do that one.
I
It's not
see.
like 30 seconds. Hey, anyone
Got
can
it.
just put a bunch of like 30-second games that take nothing, and it's like okay, here it is. So I was like, I want something a little more.
Fair enough. That's good criteria. So
Yeah.
it works
Then
out.
usually I try to just be not last. It's like okay, I want to be like in the middle, maybe a little bit
Top
over the middle if
50%.
possible.
Yeah.
Like top half, whatever the halfway mark is. Are
Hmm.
there 4 people? Can I get like 3? And they're like 100 people. Can I be like 50?
Hmm.
And then usually like, okay, like let's just get something nice so I understand it. And then if I really like it, I'll do more. If I don't like it, I'll just move on.
Yeah, so it's not
And then
just
keep it on the back.
casual playthrough uploaded. It's like I will put at
No, no.
least a little bit
Usually
of
I
time
try
to
to
learn it.
put in earnest effort to like learn whatever speed tech there is. It's like, okay, let's see what they got.
Yeah. I mean, that's impressive for 200 games with an average of at least an hour of
Yeah.
playtime each. So it's a lot of
Uh,
work.
yeah. Some of them are gonna suck having to do again later though.
Mm,
Yeah, there's some really mean bad ones on that list.
no, it is what it is.
That is true.
You put yourself in this situation. The true horror is the
But that's another day to
anticipation of the
worry
shitty
about.
games.
It's another day to worry about.
Hmm. So yeah, really trying to think of anything I haven't asked yet. I think we covered a lot of most of everything. I mean, is there anything big things you've done in the speedrunning scene that we haven't really gone into detail in?
Nah, mostly just kind of chilling. Just always kind of been, I think, like a shadow, kind of just doing whatever.
Hmm. Yeah, you seem just kind of there usually.
Yeah,
Always there in the scene somewhere, but I mean,
end up hopping around a lot.
have you done like YouTube content stuff?
Some. I used to do a lot more like pre-made videos, but then I've kind of just been uploading whatever at this point.
Hmm. So the main focus is just like streaming and uploading content
Yeah,
from there. Yeah.
streaming's a lot better than usually. It's like, oh, hey, what if I just do a commentated run? Like, if I really like a game, I'll usually try to give it a commentated run.
Okay. I mean, that's cool. So
Yeah, it's like,
people can
okay,
kind
I
of.
have a very in-depth understanding. I think I get it very quickly. I would like to explain more about this because otherwise I don't think people will. And with those, it tends to be like, I don't know how many of those I have. I used to have more, but let's see here. I have like a playlist of them, I think. I can find that playlist. Ah, there you go. I have like apparently 71 videos in like my commentated playlist, and I probably add
Hmm,
more when I think I feel good on some of those different categories.
okay.
And usually there's gonna be like more refined, like not me just riffing on whatever, but like, hey, here's how you do this and why this happens.
Hmm. Yeah, it's good to explain because there's so many, especially I assume in the games you kind of play where a thing just happens and it's like, yeah, that just happened. No idea why,
Yeah,
but it just happened. It's nice to know why.
yeah.
I love that kind of content, like whether it's like explaining world records or whatever. So
No, I probably have to go back and update some of them in the future, but for the most part, they are there.
yeah, kind of like submitting a run for GDQ, having the little commentary track to
Pretty much.
yeah, just meant for a YouTube audience instead of the games committee.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's fun. Good easy content.
Yeah. It's always been kind of fun to do them. It's like nice to actually explain why the games work.
Yeah, I always appreciate that kind of stuff because there's so many things I've taken a look at and it's like I have no idea what the hell's going on.
Yeah. Not
And
like even when I do those, I don't even tend to be like top of the board. I just like, all right, I might not be able to do it, but you can. And it's like
also fair.
someone will gain knowledge from that, and it'll
Hmm.
help explain why things work. Because usually, I think it's just there's certain gaps in a lot of games that why is this the thing, and then you find out that's why they do that, but it
Hmm.
never gets explained, and then you have to find out trial and error, and then you're there, you start trying to do the thing, thinking maybe you can get around it, and then you realize no, 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 I have to do that exact thing because otherwise a bad thing happens.
Yeah. And with like live runs, there's only so much you can explain on the fly, so it's nice to
I
be able
tend to
to.
be pretty good at it. Talk fast.
I have noticed. But yeah, um, really can't think of anything else. I guess like we've
No, it's all
kind of
chill then.
speed ran the interview, but
Yeah, we talked just a bit fast, so I guess it all works out, huh?
yeah, I mean, if you're happy, think you talked about everything in your speedrunning career up to this point, then I'm happy. So
Yeah, like I'm sure there's more, but like it just for the most part, it's just kind of learning games throughout time. I don't remember a
yeah,
lot of the general game when I learned them. Like I
yeah,
probably could if I looked at an exact timeline,
Hmm.
And they're like, oh yeah, no, I remember that. But no, a lot of the timelines are probably broken down in the area of GDQ. Normally, whatever I was running at the time tended to be a lot more of the oh, I'm gonna submit this to GDQ, and I get excited for that. There are a few other games I definitely like doing, but don't do as well because they're definitely on the weirder end. So I'm trying to push the weird stuff more. But you know, people like the Silent 2s and Dead Risings.
Hmm. Yeah. It's nice to have variety, and it sounds like people stick around for
Yeah,
that because you do both the classics and then a lot of not classics. So.
yeah. And like I said, it's kind of weird what becomes like a mainstay game that I do for a while. Like, I
Hmm.
really like one called Siren Blood Curse. It's a weird PS3 remake of a weird PS2 game.
The perfect combination.
Yeah, like even lately, like let's see, like since I did that marathon, I learned apparently 28 or 29 games, I think. Which I ended that around October of last year. So throughout the year, I learned about 28, 29. Some of them I like doing, some of them not as much. Because, like, some of them are just, okay, hack and slash, okay, standard horror game. And then every now and again, you find something really interesting or dumb. There's one time I pretty much helped route and I helped found a bit of a community in this weird game called the Skull Island Rise of Kong.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
is that
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 game.
really?
It's the
Okay, yeah.
really bad one.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
I think someone in my stream just mentioned, "Oh, a terrible Kong game is coming out." And it's like, "Wait, Kong? You mean like King Kong?" I looked it up. It was like, "Comes out tomorrow." I was like, "I'm gonna play that. That looks like a blast. I love King Kong. I love awful games. That is my jam." And then after that, more of my community started watching it. And then they're like, "Hey, this game looks fun." And then more people started speedrunning it, which then it got really broken really fast. And then a runner named Speedola actually ended up running it at GDQ. But,
Gotta
like, it
love those
happens I don't
stories.
have it even on the board is the funny part. I forgot to submit my run on the board. Like, I have runs done. Like, if you asked me to, like, bust it out right now, I was like, "Oh, yeah, easy. I can do it, like, under, like probably get a decent time." Although, the problem is then a lot of other things come up with that, like, "Oh, why don't you have a competitive time?" Because I don't wanna down patch the game because 'cause I'm lazy, and I
Mm,
don't care that much. This is a meme, like, monkey game. Why would I care? I don't need a
yeah.
good time in the meme monkey game. I could probably bust out a really good, reliable time. I can show off all the stuff that matters. Like, if I really wanted to care that much, I can play ball, but I just don't. I'd rather just do something that I think's fun for a moment than stop. Like, there's also a lot of runs I just haven't submitted. Like, I never submitted a run of like Brutal Legend, which I think I got like on the top half of the leaderboard. It's fun but hard. But also, I can never submit it because that game has licensed music, and
Oh
I'd rather
yeah.
stream the game with licensed music because it's not fun listening to nothing. No, I
Hmm.
want to listen to all the heavy metal songs. Am I gonna get like my YouTube video blocked? Of course I will. But you know what? When I'm streaming it, I get to hear they have Through the Fire and Flames. They have Super Beast with Rob Zombie. They got all the fun metal. You're watching a metal game. It's the metal stuff. Why wouldn't you want to hear that?
Got it.
And then yeah, some that I learned were absolutely terrible. Some of them didn't have leaderboards. It's like I can't submit to a leaderboard. It doesn't exist. And I don't like there's a leaderboard. It just doesn't exist for what I did for it. Like one of the games I'm dreading in the future is this game called Umbrella Corp.
Mm.
I learned it last year, actually around last Christmas, and it's bad. It was a
Mm.
multiplayer game made by Resident Evil, and it was known as one of the worst Resident Evil games ever made.
Hmm.
No one ever talks about it.
Wonder why.
But there's a single player mode in that game that has a lot of missions. So I made it my mission to do every single mission in a row as like, all right, here's the full game category. And I was like, okay, this won't take that long. Most missions are like a few minutes. And then after that, I was like, okay, this runs like 3 hours. This sucks. This game sucks. But then
Well,
I'm like the only person who's ever really done that.
got it.
So it's kind of funny. Like things can just happen if you want to do them.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I learned like the Dead Rising Wii game.
Oh.
Yeah, there's a Dead Rising Wii game that I learned more recently. I play as like Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, which it's a Wii game. It's for the Wii. It sucks. Not all Wii games suck, but this wasn't one of the good ones. It was one of the ones that was a licensed, not licensed, but it was like, all right, here is a weird port that we're making because this game was really popular on the 360, so we're gonna make it entirely different and not what you expect. And it's goofy and weird, but also it takes 3 hours.
Hmm.
Which the funny part is, I think I got world record in it like after a few tries because no one plays it. So it's like, oh hey, free world record. But then the only runner of the game came back to it afterwards, like, okay, I'm gonna get record back. I was like, I don't care enough. I don't want it back. You can keep it. Here, take your record back. I don't want it. I got a YouTube video. I gotta say I had for the day. Keep it. It's yours.
Yeah. How many games are in that catalog? I guess it's hard to.
Of like everything,
Yeah, it's hard to stick to one for
109,
all too long.
196.
Yep.
I actually removed a few of the games from that list
Oh,
because
really?
technically I'm over 200 game wise.
Mm.
Because I learned games that are essentially barely different. So I was like, I'm not going to do the barely different one.
Mm.
Oh, here's like I run this game called Spooky's Jump Scare Mansion, and the free
Oh,
version's
yeah, I
really
remember that.
cool. Yeah, it has a glitch where like you alt tab into like Windows Task Manager, and then you make the game go really fast. So you can skip all the loads, you can regain stamina, you don't deal with a lot of enemies. It's fun.
Hmm.
But then there's like the paid version. It's like here's the same run, but like remove all the cool glitches. I'm like, why am I gonna run that? I learned it. It's easy, but like I don't want to do that. That's not fun. So I just don't count it. Could I do it? Yeah, of course. But I don't like. I don't want to just pad random stuff. Like I can see runners who just like, okay, I played 5 seconds of this game. I submitted it. I've done it. No, I want something because I feel proud about it. There's some games where like I squeezed out a time that was like I think absolute last place. They might still be on speedrun.com, but I don't count as me knowing it because if I tried doing it again, I probably would do worse because I don't remember anything about it. I don't feel confident enough to return to some of those games. So they just removed them. It's like, all right, I'm not doing that anymore.
Hmm.
If I
So,
counted everything, it'd probably be over 200 at this point.
yeah, so the main list is like the things that matter enough
Yeah, the
to
main
do
list
the.
is games that if I were to sit in front of them, I can probably get a run done, although it wouldn't be an amazing run, but I would be a run.
But good
If
enough
you
for the
gave me enough
marathon.
time, I would be able to do the run. I would mostly remember it. I have my splits. I have completed times. I may have submitted to the board, but like I it is attempts, actual attempts.
Hmm.
Like I think one of the games removed was like Amnesia: The Dark Descent.
Oh, that's a classic.
It is, but the speedrun is it's really cool. I actually have a big respect for the run. It's just it's kind of like playing Mirror's Edge. Very hard to learn. Easy once you get the hang of it, but very hard to learn. It's a lot of platforming in a game that you don't probably even remember having a jump button. Like if you've ever seen a run of it, it's pretty cool. It's like 30 minutes to actually run it. You like zoom up walls and then you end up out of bounds and then you're just kind of jumping around and platforming in these areas. All the while, like all the monsters that'd be chasing you normally are just like on the ground. It's like haha. But the funny part is just, it's very different and it's surprisingly difficult. So when I tried learning it, it was like, okay, this would be like 6 hours. And I think my run's still like absolute last on the board because I just never removed it. It's like you can keep my bad run. I'll pad out the stats. Like you can have the extra runner on the board, but I don't count it for my own list because I don't really do it that often. I'd probably relearn it at some point if I really felt motivated, but it's hard. It's very, very hard.
Maybe we'll see it in the 300 game
Honestly,
marathon.
maybe. Like I've thought about going back to it a few times, stuff like that. I've thought about like going to a few games that maybe I wrote off. I actually did that with BioShock and Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories.
Yeah.
BioShock I learned like I think in 2018 and it's like, all right, this is cool, I get it now. And then Yu-Gi-Oh! Was like, okay, I don't need a layout. I think I could just run the game normally. And I was like, oh wait, I totally could do that. And then I learned it well enough where like I know what to do. It just the game's long.
Mm-hmm.
Like world record is like, okay, you need good RNG and you need to have really good luck and you should buy a lottery ticket. Oh, it's luck based. It's just all right. There's some parts where you have to play duels and hope you do well, but then for the most part, it's like, okay, did you get the thing? Oh, dang it, just gambling.
Let's go gambling. Oh, dang it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's literally it. It's like also I know a lot of people do the 15 card mod. I just did the vanilla, which is why it's like okay, this runs like I think 12 hours or like 11 hours. I got a PB. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember if I submitted it. I just remember I have it. I have a video. Actually, I think I did submit it because when I did every game, I PB'd during that, and that took up a whole day. So I just literally have a VOD of me doing like an 11-hour run because that's all I could do that day. Because it's okay. I usually break it down in like 12-hour segments. Game is 12 hours. Damn.
So yeah, almost at 200. And then, out of curiosity, since you have the list, do you know like what percentage of that is horror? Because clearly there's stuff that aren't.
Percentage, I have no way of telling. I keep it
No
on
way.
like in a Google document thing.
You have like a rough
Let's
estimate.
see. I'll just tell you what's not horror. It'll be easy to find, or things I don't consider horror. All right. Let's see here. So I started getting more genre breaking later.
Mm-hmm.
And also, some people argue things. I'm not gonna go with the arguments, just like what I personally think is not horror. Um, or even horror adjacent. Yu-Gi-Oh is probably one of them.
I think so.
Oh, Yu-Gi-Oh took me. I got under 9 hours. Okay, I got like under 9 hours in Yu-Gi-Oh. Feel good about that. That's actually not bad. Um, a game called Katana Zero. Let's see here. Technically, We Happy Few, but I count that as horror. It's like British BioShock.
Mm.
Uh,
Was Bioshock considered horror?
yes.
Oh, I guess I didn't.
Like the
I
opening
don't know too much
cutscene,
about
someone getting like stabbed in front of you, and it's like it's supposed to be very horror.
it. Okay.
BioShock was intended to be like underwater horror.
I've only played like an hour of Infinite, which
I
did
didn't do
not
that one. I
strike
did
me.
the OG.
Yeah, did not strike me. So that's all I'm basing my
If you
info
count
off of.
Castlevania stuff, I did Bloodstained Curse of the Moon. I'll count that as like not horror, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Horror theme, but like not.
Yeah. Like again, a lot of stuff's adjacent. Like the Mummy is a horror property. It's the Mummy. It's horror. Even if it's not like directly a horror game, it's still based on horror media.
Mm-hmm.
I always counted that. Let's see. And also, I got pretty loose with it. Like I counted Twisted Metal because it's like Death Game. It's like that's I count it. I have a very loose opinion of what horror is, as long as it's like trying to be spooky. Let's see here. Apparently so far, yeah, so far it's like three games. I guess Ghostwire Tokyo kind of, but it's still like it's like yokai, it's Japanese demons. Like you could count it. Let's see, not horror, not horror, not horror. I do a lot of horror games apparently.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like it.
There's a game called LSD Dream Emulator, which is kind of a trippy
Oh,
PS1
the
game.
PS1. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I
I
did
know all about
that.
that.
I count it in the same vein, but I think it's like not horror enough that I can consider it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. The Town with No Name, Lowrider. If you count 12 minutes, I guess it's kind of a drama, but Home Break-In reminded me a lot of horror movies, so it's like I kind of counted it. Oh, I haven't done
Yeah,
that one in a
okay.
while, but yeah, 12 minutes. I guess I counts. I did a horror parody game called The Wallace and Gromit Curse of the Were-Rabbit about Wolfman, werewolf, based on that werewolf. I do a lot more horror games than I thought. Wow. Because I count King Kong as horror. It's kaiju. If you don't, then Skull Island and Peter Jackson's Kong. Brutal Legend, I guess, doesn't count, but it's kind of the whole metalhead thing anyway. Like, if you ask a horror fan about Brutal Legend, they'll probably like it. It's demons.
Close enough.
Yeah, I'm trying to name things that I would consider not horror. Oh, Pepsi Man.
You've done Pepsi Man. Let's
I've
go.
done Pepsi Man. I've done The Bouncer, which is not horror. Sleeping Dogs. No More Heroes 2. And that's actually it.
Wow.
That's like 10. That's like 10 that I wouldn't count as like at all horror related.
All right.
Yeah, most of them are horror to some degree. Unless I miscounted anything, which I don't think I did. I have like the whole list in front of me. Like I literally marked all of them, what I think about the run. But no, a lot of these things are either horror adjacent, or like in the general realm. Oh, I guess Ghosts and Goblins, if you count that. Resurrection.
Oh,
But
not.
also, it's literally Ghosts and Goblins. It was like NES horror back in the day.
Yeah, that's all
So
I
it's
can think
kind
of is the NES game.
yeah, like it was like retro horror turned into like platformer franchise.
I see that as the same as kind of Castlevania though, where it's like
Yeah,
horror
but
themed, but not like horror.
like if you want to count it, you can, or you don't want to count it, you can. But like that's why I bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pretty much everything else is horror to some degree.
Wow.
which is it's kind of a trip, huh? I guess I run more horror than I thought, or less non-horror.
Hmm.
Next time
Well,
someone complains, I'm gonna bring that up about not doing a lot of horror games. No, I do plenty.
yeah,
I'm looking at it right now.
just a
Like I think
few.
there's maybe one or two more. Like there's a couple of meme games I did. Like I think I tried doing the House of Caravan and the Graveyard. I think I watched a critical video on them, and they're like short. But like the Graveyard, I count as like those two can count, sure, as not horror. Like they're April Fool's things. They're like less than a minute, which I count them because I also counted the 9-hour Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories run. I counted the 3-hour Parasite Eve run, the 6.5-hour Slitterhead run. So yeah, I take the long and the short together. I don't judge based on the size of the game.
Got it. So yeah, definitely primarily horror focused content, but
It would appear so.
there's a couple, you know, breakouts, I guess.
Yeah.
Always good to have. So I guess I'll try and wrap things up here since it sounds like we're at the end, but do you have like any games that you know you want to do in the future, whether they're horror or not?
Yeah, actually, speaking of Ghosts and Goblins, at some point I want to do Super Ghoul, like I think it's like Super Ghouls and Ghosts. There's
Oh,
the
the
Super
Super
Nintendo
Nintendo game.
one. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that game. Love watching it. I used to watch it all the time, and I've done it casually. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do it casually, and I don't know, I just love it. I think it's great.
No, that's a good choice.
Yeah, at some point, I don't know when, but like it's an area of retro horror you don't get to see very often. I know. Oh, but it's a platformer. But like, you're fighting like the devil. Like it's all
Horror
ghosts
adjacent.
and goblins.
Horror
What do you think it
adjacent.
is? Yeah.
Close enough.
Oh, it's a ghost. Never been horror that way. But also really loose on what the definition is. I'm not like not picky.
You're just having fun. That's all.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that. But I'm sure more things will come up as it goes.
That's
I
like
want to learn some really dumb game too called Mr. Mosquito.
okay.
It's
Never heard of
really
that
dumb.
one.
That's all I can say. It's beyond dumb.
I mean, I love dumb games, so especially.
It is a very questionable PS2 awful game.
Oh, perfect.
That's the best way I'll put it. It is questionable.
Awful block coming soon.
I don't know about that one. I don't think it's enough. I don't think it would ever get into a GDQ. It's a bit let's say crass.
Yeah.
I feel confident it probably does not.
I'm missing anyway.
Yeah.
But do you like keep track of potential future games, or does it just like
Yeah, usually
in
keep
your mind?
track in my head or
Oh,
write them
okay.
down or something. It's like, okay, maybe I do this. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. You got to hit 300. That's the next goal after 200, right?
Honestly, after 200, I probably learn a lot of shorter stuff so I can actually like finally get around to doing the shorter games I've been trying to do.
All right.
If I did that, I'd probably be over 200 already. Like, there's like a game I wanted to learn that was like 5 minutes. It's like, okay, that's like cool, but it's like 5 minutes. I don't want to do that yet.
So have you gone over most of the highlights of future things you can think of at the moment?
Probably, I mean, there's like some other ones, but I gotta see what happens.
Not enough information to make a determined idea yet. Okay.
Pretty much gonna see what the rest of the year takes it, and next year, I guess.
So sounds like in terms of future plans, just more of the same. Got the GDQ in the 2 weeks, and then eventually we'll see that 200 game full marathon.
Like showcasing a lot of the older games and just seeing how like people like them. It's like, all right, this game's pretty tight.
All right, good deal. Well,
yeah.
Sounds like that's everything. So I guess we can wrap things up here. So if you're satisfied with our discussion, then so am I.
Yeah.
So all right.
Sounds good. Hopefully your computer's gonna be good.
It's been okay at the moment. So hopefully, I record in a way where I won't lose footage even if I have like connection issues. So
there you go.
YouTube video might freeze a little bit, but it will be, the audio should all be unaltered. So that's the important part. It is a podcast after all. So
sounds good.
All right. Yeah, go ahead and close it out here. I'll leave the stage to you to self-promote however you would like to.
No, I just, all I would say is if you're interested in learning games, just do it. There's no shame in it. It's a lot easier to just pick something up than anything else.
Yeah. Speedrunning is easy to get into. Just
like streaming, speedrunning, anything really. A lot of people have this big gap in their head that, oh, what if I'm not perfect? What if I can't do it? And I mean, you won't be perfect, but that's what you gotta do. You just do it, and then
You do it for
eventually,
fun. That should
yeah,
be the
it
main
happens.
motivation, is have fun with it.
Yeah, and then it turns into something awesome.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Well, I guess I'll promote for you then. All your links will be on stream and will be in the YouTube description. So there you
Thank
go.
you.
No problem. Happy to help. Now I can promote myself. Thanks for watching, everyone. Follow the show if you enjoy these episodes. We're getting close to 100, so I have something special planned. Stay tuned for that. And yeah, if you're watching live, this video will be up tomorrow on Sunday because we're live streaming this the day before. And yeah, I guess that's everything. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks everyone for
Yeah,
watching.
thank you for
And
having me.
yeah, appreciate it. And just have a good one. All right.
Take it
See ya,
easy.
everyone. Bye.